right, if you're a sales professional, a marketing expert, or someone already working in finance who's tired of watching other people close massive deals while you're still stuck trading time for money, then listen up, because I'm going to show you the exact 4-step framework to build your own boutique investment bank capable of closing $100 million plus deals literally within 90 days, completely compliant with FINRA and SEC regulations. And here's the kicker. You can do this without having to go to Ivy League school, without having to have any traditional finance degree, without spending years on Wall Street, and without having to have any previous investment banking or finance experience for that matter whatsoever. Look, I get it. When most people hear investment banking, they think they need decades of experience and billions of dollars in the bank to get started. But I used this exact process to become a finance professional in under 3 years and start my own investment bank, Cadenwood. And I did that with zero previous finance experience, zero connections, and without having millions of dollars in the bank. Today, my team has cumulatively completed billions of dollars in transactions and profited tens of millions of dollars. We have $50 million in success fees that are tabled to close in Q3 and Q4 of this year, 2025, including a $1 billion transaction that is slated to close in Q4. And get this, every single person on my team, except for myself and a few other junior positions, have over 20 years experience in the industry. But it's not just me. Connor and Liam started working with me in mid-2024. They've earned multiple 7 figures in fees, and they recently secured a $108 million term sheet for a real estate deal and a $34 million term sheet for another deal, combined fees over $5 million. Jamal just closed the first $10 million of a $100 million raise with a 5% success fee. That's $500,000 in success fees from one deal. Matt closed $225,000 in upfront fees in May alone and is currently working on over $4 billion in live deals. Nick, he secured 3 term sheets from a single family office for 2 separate real estate deals for a total of over $100 million. Now, if some of this sounds confusing to you and you're new to this world, no problem. I'm going to be breaking down all of this in detail, which is exactly the purpose of this entire video. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact 4-step framework that I've refined over the past 3 years that enables you to charge between $25,000 and $250,000 upfront for a single engagement for capital advisory mandates, which is just a fancy way of saying that you're going to be raising capital. That means helping companies raise equity or debt, or M&A mandates, which is essentially helping companies sell their company or acquire another company. Plus, you're going to learn how to structure success fees where you take a percentage of the transaction. Remember Jamal's example, he raised $10 million at 5%. That's $500,000 in success fees on top of your upfront fees. So here's what we're going to cover in today's video. The first step is compliance. I'm going to show you how to get licensed yourself in the securities industry and how to get your firm licensed and registered with a FINRA registered broker-dealer, which is the licensed entity. It's the actual company that's regulated by FINRA. And we do this so you can legally collect success fees and work in the securities industry from the onset. This is a non-negotiable. If you want to play at this level, it's necessary for you to do this. And the second thing that we're going to be going over today is building your dream team, how to assemble advisors and individuals with billions of dollars in transaction history, 30, 40 years plus experience in specific industries, and I call this step leveraging OPE, other people's experience. The third step is cultivating capital partners, how to develop relationships with the buy side, the people that are actually going to place capital in your deals or buy the companies you're advising. We're going to focus on the exact industries that your advisors have deep experience in. The fourth step is generating deal flow. Now, the modern methods that we show you enable you to outcompete bulge bracket banks. We've had students that won mandates over Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan using these exact strategies. Now, for context, a mandate is essentially a fancy way to term a client in the traditional sense. I'm also going to show you how to build a referral partner network that brings deals to you on autopilot. Now look, everything I'm about to show you is exactly what you need to build a legitimate investment banking or capital advisory practice. If you want to go out and do this on your own, I'm giving you the entire playbook, the entire blueprint right here in this video, I'm not holding anything back. It might take you a little bit longer to do this on your own without implementing it with direct guidance, but this is it. If you want to take it and run with it, you can do so. And as a matter of fact, I've had people that reach out to me saying that they've consumed and watched a lot of my material, and then what they do is they reach out to me and they say that they want to work with me on a more one-on-one basis and a more intimate basis so they can take things to the next level. So it's necessary for me to say this. Before we dive into all the material, I need to be crystal clear about something. The results that I've shared and the results that I'm about to share, mine, my students, all of them, these are not typical results. I'm showing you what's possible when you follow the process, but by no means am I making any representation that you're going to achieve anything similar. I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to make any money with this. Statistically speaking, most people in this field don't make the numbers that we are purporting or talking about in these videos. Every single result that you see today required massive effort, the right market conditions, proper execution. Your results will entirely depend on your own experience, your skill set, your effort, and a dozen other factors that are entirely outside of my control. With that said, the individuals that use this information correctly have been able to make millions of dollars, start their own firms, and go on to becoming the principals of their own deals. This is educational content. I'm teaching you a process. That's it. I'm not giving you financial advice, investment advice, or any other kind of professional advice for that matter. And here's the most important part. The securities industry is heavily regulated. You cannot do any of this without being properly licensed. And that's the reason why compliance is step number one in this entire process. You must be licensed individually, and your firm must be registered with FINRA before you can legally collect success fees or work in the securities industry. No exceptions. If you try to do this without proper licensing, you are literally breaking federal law. Period. So please, if you try to go out and do this on your own, consult with licensed legal and compliance professionals before you take any action on the material that you see in this video today. All right, before we dive into any of the actual material, I want to get into the good stuff, why you're actually here. How does this model make you money? We're going to break down the business model right now. So within the investment banking, or how I term this really is neo-investment banking, within this model, there's several components, several ways that you're going to be able to create income and also create wealth. So there are a few different kinds of mandates or clients or ways that you are going to advise companies on securities related and investment banking related matters. So the two main ones are M&A and capital advisory. We already touched on these, but I'm going to break these down in a little bit more detail. So the first one is M&A. Now, a lot of investment banks, a lot of the larger investment banks, they really focus on larger M&A transactions, either buy side or sell side. So what does that mean? Well, buy side would mean they are advising a company on how to strategically acquire another company and put them together. That would be a merger. All right. And then on the sell side, they would help companies structure their company, do the financials, create what's called a SIM, or sell it to another company that's going to do their own merger. The way that you would charge for M&A advisory work is you would either charge a very large upfront fee that would cover you off for the entirety of the transaction. Now, some of these M&A advisory transactions can take years to accomplish. So the fees that you can command up front are very high. So for instance, Goldman Sachs or other bulge bracket banks will start their fees, their structured fees, to bring a mandate on at $250,000. All right. Some smaller firms will do $50,000 or $100,000. All right. Now, there's other ways that you can charge. You can charge monthly retainers, $10,000 or $15,000 a month, or you can charge hourly work, like a lawyer would bill per hour. There's many different ways that you can do this. And then obviously there would be the success fee. Some larger transactions of billions of dollars, say you're selling a company that's worth $3 billion and you're taking 3% on the transaction. Well, that can mean multiple 8 figures in fees for your firm. Now let's break down capital advisory work. Now, this is what you would constitute as private placement work in the securities industry or in the broker-dealer world. Now, capital advisory or capital markets advisory is broken down into 2 primary buckets. The first would be equity, where you're selling shares in a company, and the other would be you're selling debt. All right. And these are the two main ways that companies go out to raise money to fund marketing, to fund expansion, or to do any other plethora of the things that a business would need capital for. What your job is, in this instance, is to go to market and to find the groups that would be interested in either lending that company money or buying shares of the company. And the way that you would charge your client or the mandate would be a smaller upfront fee or a smaller monthly fee comparative to the M&A work. And the reason for this is because the transactions can be as short as 60 days, sometimes 90 days. And when you have really, really thorough processes, like some of the processes that I'm going to share with you in this video, you're able to complete transactions in a very, very short amount of time. However, the structure of your transaction with that client is very much so similar. You charge them the upfront fee, but instead of it being, six figures, you would charge them, say, $50,000. And generally the range for capital markets advisory work is like $10,000 on like the very, very low end, all the way up to, say, $100,000, depending on the complexity of work, how much structuring you need to do of the deal, the materials that you need to create, the complexity of the individuals or groups that you're going to need to market the deal to. All of these factors play into how much you would charge. But you would also be charging the success fee. So on equity raises, the range is generally between 3% all the way up to 10%. Sometimes it can go higher, but that's generally what you're going to be charging, which means, let's say you do a $100 million deal where you are raising $100 million in equity and you charge 10%. Well, that's $10 million. Now, on the debt side, because the initial cost of capital is more expensive, there's an interest rate associated with the capital that you're raising. The success fee that you're going to charge your client is going to be less. So generally it's around 1.5% to say 3%. Maybe sometimes you'd charge a little bit higher, but that's generally the range. Now, in addition to this, there's also other ways that you can get paid. There are broker warrants that would be attached to your success fee, which gives you the option to buy stock at a set price in the future when hypothetically the stock price would be higher. Or there's other ways that you can do this by negotiating a percentage of the actual equity in the company, or identifying what management purchased their equity at and trying to negotiate a deal where you're purchasing stock at 1/10 of a penny or 1/20 of a penny, which would oftentimes be referred to as a merchant banking deal. That's a topic for a whole other video, but that's something at our firm we do quite frequently. So all in all, this business model enables individuals and firms to collect six figures, multiple six figures a month in revenue from the upfront fees. If you get really streamlined, you can really bump that up, but generally you don't want to be doing that because you want to focus on where you're going to be making the most money, which is on the back end with the success fees. Generally, smaller boutique firms will close between, say, 2 to 5 transactions a year, and those fees will range in the lower 7-figure range to the lower 8-figure range, sometimes higher depending on the size of the transaction. So that's a little bit on the business model. There's obviously a lot more that can be said on this, but I wanted to give you a brief overview of the business model, the economics, and how you actually are going to get paid before we move on to the first step in the actual process, which is compliance. So compliance is the first step in creating an investment bank from scratch. There's a few different components to compliance, to licensing, and to becoming registered. So the first is individually. So you, as the individual, as the principal of the firm, will need to become licensed. Now, if you are going to be doing capital markets advisory work, which would be primarily constituted as private placement work, there are several licenses that you're going to need. Now, the actual license that you would need to sell the securities would either be your Series 7, which encompasses any security sale. It could be bonds, it could be options, it could also be equity products, it could be selling public equities, it could be selling debt. Pretty much anything that you might want to sell, the Series 7 will cover. Now, the Series 82 is referred to as the Baby 7, and that covers just private placement work. So if you are going to raise capital for a private company, which is honestly what most people do in this boutique investment banking or capital advisory model in the first place, then the Series 82 is pretty much all you need. Now, there are several prerequisite licenses that you need leading up to your Series 82 or your Series 7. The first would be the SIE, the Securities Industry Essentials exam. Now, if you're going to go down the Series 82 route, the SIE is actually probably the most extensive exam or course that you're going to need to take. The next one that you're going to need to write is the Series 63. These are the prerequisite exams that you need to pass before you can go on to taking your Series 82 or writing your Series 7. Now, the first two, the SIE and the Series 63, you do not need to be sponsored by a broker-dealer to write. You could go out right now, you could start studying, you could set a test window, and you could go and write those exams right now. However, the Series 82 and the Series 7 do require you to be sponsored by a broker-dealer to even write the exam. So this is where the industry starts to become a little bit gate-kept. With that said, the secret here lies in you going out to a broker-dealer that provides platform services. A company like Finalis or GT Securities, they offer the ability for individuals to come on board and create what's referred to as a branch office, which I'm going to explain a little bit more in a second here, and they will sponsor you to write your examinations. Now, our own firm, Cadenwood, also offers broker-dealer platform services and does sponsor individuals to write their 82 or their 7 or any of the other myriad of licenses that you might want to take in this industry. And that's one of the services that we offer to students inside of our private program, which is Dealmaker. So the Series 7 and the Series 82 cover off on the actual sale of securities. However, there are some other licenses that you might consider taking. The first of which that I want to talk about here is the Series 79, which covers investment banking work. Now, the actual definition of investment banking in this context is pricing and structuring. How to price and structure a transaction. This means doing the valuation on the company, identifying what kind of shares are actually going to be sold when you go out to market, or even creating an investment presentation deck. The actual deck that you're going to go out to market with, that constitutes Series 79 work. So this is something that you might consider writing yourself in future once you create your firm. However, what you could do is you could go on and find an individual that holds their Series 79, bring them onto your firm, and now you have that base covered. The other license that you might consider taking is the Series 24, and this is the compliance license. This is what enables you to be a chief compliance officer. If you are going to start your own broker-dealer, to be able to control your bank account, you need to hold a Series 24. So it's something that you might consider writing in the future. However, like I said, when you start, the only thing that you need to actually go out, start talking to clients, or they're referred to as issuers, the issuer of the security, the actual company that you are going to be retaining as a client to go out to market and sell the security that they've issued. The only thing that you need to start is the Series 82 or the Series 7. However, like the Series 79, you can bring on an individual that holds their Series 24, and they can be your compliance officer, the individual that supervises the compliance of the entire firm. Now let's move on to the entity level registration or licensing. So broker-dealers are the registered or licensed entities that hold registration with FINRA, and the individuals that work at the broker-dealer are licensed individuals or registered representatives. Now, there are two ways you can set up your own broker-dealer. The first is you start one from scratch. Now this can cost hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars to start one from scratch. The other way is to purchase one, which also can be very capital intensive. Both of these options, if you're just getting started, probably don't make the most sense, because sometimes it could take 6 months, a year, sometimes longer for you to get actually up and running and be able to start working on transactions. However, there is another way. Now, I referred to the branch office previously. Setting up a branch office with a broker-dealer is how you can get started almost immediately. This is where a broker-dealer would supervise your entity as a branch office of the broker-dealer. Within your branch office, you'd have your own reps, the individuals that would hold their licenses, and also you could have someone who holds their Series 24. If you have someone who holds their Series 24, you can create what's called an OSJ, an Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction. And doing this provides some benefits. So overall, without getting into too much detail, that's a little bit of overview on compliance, on registration, and on licensing. The very first thing in this process that you need to initiate is getting licensed yourself and then setting up your branch office or your OSJ. However, this can be done in tandem to steps 2 and steps 3. All right, we move on to step number 2, which is OPE, other people's experience, leveraging your dream team. So how are you going to find your dream team? Well, there's several tools that you're going to use in order to go out and find individuals that, like we said, have over 30, 40 years experience, have done billions of dollars in transactions, that have specific subject matter expertise in specific industries like oil and gas, energy, deep tech, etc. Now, there's several reasons why we want to leverage OPE in the first place. Well, if you don't have any experience in investment banking, how are you going to go out and convince companies to give you money and convince them that you're capable of actually getting the job done? Well, how we do this is by borrowing the track record and the capabilities of other individuals that have come before us. And the reason why this is so effective is because you can go straight to someone who's actually been there, done that, and learn the industry from them. That's what enables you to negate the necessity to go to school and spend decades or years in the industry in the first place. You go to someone who's already been in the industry for decades, that has recently done transactions, that have tons of experience, and you borrow all their credibility, you soak up everything that they know, and oftentimes these individuals will become a mentor to you. And that's actually something that you want to be focusing on, is finding someone who's going to be your mentor, because there's something very valuable, something very powerful about tapping into that mentor frame. A lot of these individuals, their families, they don't really care about what they've done. They've been in the industry for decades, and oftentimes this stuff is so confusing that even their family members, they don't even know what they do really. And these people are so experienced and have this breadth of knowledge and done these incredible things in the world, but they don't really get the respect that they oftentimes deserve from people that are close to them, simply because they don't understand it. And a lot of times these people are yearning to pass on that knowledge and to be someone who can help other people, to help the future generation do exactly what they've done. And obviously, if they're in the industry, it's because it's something that they love to do. I certainly love this. I love what we do. It's really salesmanship at the highest level. You're selling products and services that are worth, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, billions in some instances. I mean, the largest deal in recorded history is over $1 trillion. That could be considered this type of work. So when you go down this path of creating your dream team, the real person that you're trying to find is your mentor, the person that is going to take a liking to you, that you have similar interests. Maybe you came from similar upbringings, and this is going to be someone who can take you under their wing and show you the ins and outs of the industry. Now, with that said, there's a few tactical reasons that we use OPE in the first place, other than just credibility. The first reason is because we need to know what industries to focus our deal origination efforts on. Now, deal origination is the deal flow, the companies, the marketing efforts, the sales efforts of your front-end operation, the companies that you're going to be speaking to that need help with either M&A work or with capital markets advisory work. And without having someone with experience in a specific industry, you're going to be a generalist. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're able to focus on a specific niche, you have tremendous more leverage. And that's one of the reasons why we use OPE, is because these individuals that you bring on as advisors are going to have focus areas in specific industries. And the industries that your firm will focus on will be predicated on the experience that the advisors have in specific industries. Now, the second reason, which ties into the first reason, is we actually want to get these deals done. So if the advisors have specific subject matter expertise and focus areas in specific industries, and they've done transactions in specific industries, then they will know individuals, they will know buy-side counterparties. These are capital partners. These are groups that fund deals, debt, equity, private equity firms that are purchasing and consolidating companies. They will have the other side of the transaction already in their Rolodex. They will have their phone numbers in their phone. So what this enables you to do is complete transactions in record time. You are putting all the pieces of the puzzle together sequentially. And this is what enables you to do things in a far more efficient manner than a lot of other folks in the industry. Now, one critical component of the borrowing credibility aspect of your advisors is the actual transactions that they've completed in their focus area industries, or as they're colloquially referred to in the industry as tombstones, the actual deals that have been funded or completed or consummated. It is imperative that you have completed transactions to show, not from yourself, but from people on your team, in order to prove that you're capable of getting the job done when you're speaking to companies during your deal origination efforts. And that's the reason why we put together the dream team as the second step, or in tandem with the first step of compliance, because really everything predicates on the team that you have. You don't need to figure anything out yourself. You simply go and find the people that already have experience, whatever industries they're in are the industries you're going to focus on. Whatever deals they've done are the kinds of deals that you're going to try to originate in the first place. And because they've already had the experience in those industries, you will have far more conviction when you're actually on the phone with issuers, because you know for a fact that the people on your team have already done things similar in the past and have had success with it. So as you're on the phone down the line when you're speaking to issuers, is you want to speak in a collective we. Your team, our team, has done X, Y, and Z. We've completed billions of dollars in transactions. We have a focus area in oil and gas. Some recent transactions that we completed are XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. And what I've just said there is essentially what the origin story or the gravitas of the entire firm is. And that is how you position yourself as a firm that's been around for decades, even though you literally just started. I'll give you a little anecdote. There's a private client that just came into Dealmaker. He started doing all of this a week ago. He's already gotten to the point where he has advisors that have done billions of dollars in transactions, and they are speaking to a company that is raising $100 million, and he's about to bring on that mandate to his firm. Obviously, once he's licensed. But the conversation has started, they're interested, they're ready to move, and that's how quickly things can happen. And they never asked him a single question about his experience, about his personal track record, about what he's done. None of that. He's negated all of those sorts of objections because he's created the actual structure, the story of a firm that's capable of doing the job. So as you're building out your dream team, there are a few key roles that you want to be placing. So the first would be your Series 24. Now, you don't need to have a Series 24 for a branch office, but again, the OSJ has its advantages. The other individual that you would want to have is someone who holds a Series 79, so you can actually do pricing and structuring investment banking work. And then obviously the other individuals will need to have their Series 7 or Series 82 so they can actually go out and sell. And you're doing all of this as you're writing your own examinations and setting up your branch office and then placing those individuals inside of your new firm. Now, what happens if these individuals are already registered at another firm? Well, there's several ways that you can still work with them. You can do fee sharing or cross-marketing arrangements with them. You still want to find that mentor. This individual oftentimes is going to be already retired. Maybe they have lost their licenses, like they've expired. They're not currently working at a firm. And the cliche here is they're tired of playing golf and they want to go back in the industry, sink their teeth into something, and they want to help someone who's on their way up. That is the perfect storm. So I want to tell you another story here. When I started Cadenwood Capital, at the time it was Cadenwood Group, and this was about a year ago, I partnered with my mentor. And he fit that bill specifically. He was tired of playing golf. He wanted to go back and work. He didn't want to work as much as he's working right now, which is the irony, but we have created something that's fantastic, and we've done it literally in a year. Prior to that, I was working at another firm with another partner, and I subsequently discontinued working at that firm so I could start Cadenwood, which is really what I wanted to do with Dominic and fulfill this entire vision. And I followed this exact model. And what it enabled us to do is find an issuer that needed to raise capital. That issuer was brought to us by my mentor. I spun up our marketing efforts to find individuals that would be interested in investing capital into that company. And we were able to find a group that committed at the time $128 million, $3 million equity, $125 million as a backstop to the IPO. And that has since turned into a commitment for a $150 million credit facility. And we were able to do this literally within a week of starting the firm. Put all those pieces in place. So that's the sort of power that you're enabled with when you follow the steps in this process. So that brings us on to the third step, which is starting to warm up capital partners, the buy side to the transactions. So you already have people that you can pair up to the transactions and to the deals that you originate, which is the fourth step. So without further ado, let's dive into step number 3. All right, so step 3 is cultivating your capital partner network. So this is where you build relationships with the buy side of the transactions or the counterparties that are actually going to fund your deals or buy the companies that you're advising. So very similar to how we were discussing, you are going to focus your deal origination efforts on the industries that your advisors and your dream team have experience in. In this step, you are creating the relationships with the capital partners in the industries that your advisors have transaction history in or have focus area in. So if your advisors have experience in tech, in healthcare, in energy, well, then you're going to be focusing your efforts on finding capital partners in those exact industries. Now, while you're doing this, you need to ensure that the individual that is making contact with the capital partners is already licensed. So if you're not licensed yourself at this point, then you need to make sure one of the advisors that you have on your team that is licensed will be making the contact on behalf of the firm. Now, there's a few tools that you can use in order to do this. The most powerful, the most actionable, and the easiest one to set up is using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And generally what I like to do is I use an AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude, and I tell it the exact criteria of the capital partner that I'm looking for. So let's say, to use the example previously, I'm looking for family offices that invest in healthcare deals. Well, I'm going to tell ChatGPT that I'm looking for family offices that invest in healthcare deals, and I'm going to give it other specific criteria that I want to get search parameters for that I can then plug into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that's the easiest way to do this. I tell ChatGPT exactly what I'm looking for. It gives me all of the terms that I'm looking for, the criteria that I can plug in, including Boolean searches for titles as well as keywords. That is a very key hack. If you specifically ask for Boolean searches for titles and keywords, you can get incredibly granular with the search results that you end up procuring from your search. Now, you would obviously do this for private equity firms, for venture capital firms, for individuals, pretty much any capital partner firm type that would have interest in that industry. You're going to create lists and searches for these specific capital partners. And then what are you going to do? There's several ways that you can make contact. The first would be you manually connect with them on LinkedIn. Pro tip here is to not have any message in the connection request. You just leave it as a blank connection request. You send the connection, you wait for them to accept, and then you send a longer message once they've accepted, essentially giving the highlight, the gravitas, the overview of your firm, your track record, capability, the fact that you have a focus area in this industry, that you're looking to generate deal flow in that industry, and that you're interested in learning more about their mandate in the sorts of deals that they're looking to allocate towards over the next year, and that you're looking to build a relationship with them, understand more of what they're looking for, and really just make the connection. The other way that you can make contact is by using automation tools. Now, there's many different automation tools that exist on the market. There's Linked Helper, there's HeyReach, there's AimFox, there's WeConnect. There's a whole plethora of these tools that exist on the marketplace. Now, one key distinction that you're looking for is one that will enable you to use a proxy when you do your outreach. The reason why is because you want all of the outreach routed through one IP address, and the proxy will allow you to do this in the automation tool. What this does is it prevents your account from getting suspended. So this isn't a permanent suspension, but sometimes your account will go down for 1 or 2 days. You don't want that to happen. So you use this proxy in conjunction with the automation tool, and that enables you to safely run these campaigns. Another way that you can build out your dream team by adding capital partners to it is by going to family offices or capital partners first, identifying what their mandates are, and then using that as a focus area that you go into the marketplace and originate deal flow in. That is one way that you can do it. You can do it either by identifying the industries your advisors have experience in, or you can actually find the capital partners, the family office that has $5 billion to allocate towards real estate over the next year, and you can use that as a means to go out and originate deal flow. It's not one or the other. You can do both. You can flip it. You really just want to use all of the pieces that you have at your disposal. You want to create the story around your firm and connect all of the dots, all of the relationships that you have that culminate in this one incredibly capable firm. And the key here is really the alignment between your team's expertise and the available capital that's out there in the marketplace. And as you're doing this, your story is going to snowball. Every relationship that you create, every connection that you make, this all is going to culminate into the story, into the gravitas of your firm. And this is what you're going to be able to say and utilize for conviction and as salesmanship when you get on the phone with issuers. And this is how your salesmanship can get to a master level, where every single mandate that you learn of a family office, you now tie in to the language patterns that you use on calls, and you say, hey, we have the relationship with XYZ family office. They're allocating $5 billion in real estate in the next 12 years. These are the exact criteria that they're looking for. And you can very confidently say that on calls to bring on mandates, to bring on issuers, start selling deals, and therefore commanding very high upfront fees and increasing the certainty level in the clients that you're going to be able to get the job done. So I'll give you another example. An individual in the private program that completed a deal the fastest in record time out of any other individual, including myself, was someone who did exactly this. He flipped it. He went to the buy side first. He found a family office. He identified their mandate. Then he went to find a deal to pair up with that mandate. And he did this before he even went out and found advisors. He did this because I told him this would be the fastest way to actually get a deal done. And if you want to learn more about this and see an actual case study that breaks all of this down in more detail, I'm going to leave that just above here for you to watch if you want to learn a little bit more about how he actually did it. All right, so now we're going to move on to step 4, which is originating deal flow. This is how you're actually going to secure the deal, secure the mandate, or win the mandate as it's referred to, and then actually go out and complete the transaction. Now, if you want to learn more about my actual firm, Cadenwood, and our capabilities, our gravitas, maybe you're someone who actually wants to raise capital, well, I've created a video that breaks down how I created Cadenwood as a broker-dealer. It goes into all the steps that I took, what my vision is for the future, how we're gonna go into private equity and create a fund, which is actually something that I'm working on right now. And I'm gonna leave that video just above here if you wanna watch that once you're done with this video, or if you wanna go and watch that right now, it's right above. All right, so now we move on to deal origination. How do you actually bring on a mandate? How do you make money? How do you make your first money in upfront fees? How do you secure tabled success fees? And how do you start actually working on a transaction? Well, the way that I approach this is very different from the way folks in the traditional sense approach deal origination. So I come from a marketing and sales background, which means I utilize all of the latest technology and all of the marketing methods that are used in agencies. So one of the ways that we utilize tech to originate deal flow, which I've already touched on, is LinkedIn. So we use LinkedIn as a tool to create large-scale deal origination efforts, and very much so the way that I described how you can use ChatGPT or a AI tool in conjunction with Sales Navigator. You can do the exact same thing to find companies that might be looking for capital markets advisory or M&A advisory. So you simply explain exactly what you're looking for. It gives you the search criteria, the Boolean searches for titles, the Boolean searches for keywords, and then you take all that information, you plug it into Sales Navigator. It gives you a search. You can either do it manually or you can use the automation tools to go out and leverage the fact that you don't actually have to be doing things manually. And that's one of the key points here is efficiency, it's leverage, it's speed. Now, one piece here is you want to have as many members of your firm using LinkedIn if you're going to be doing an automation. So each account can really only send about 25 to 50 messages a day. So you're limited in terms of the volume that you can send. So the way that we increase volume is by scaling horizontally. You don't just use one account, you use 10 accounts, you use 15 accounts. You get relatives, you get, family members, other people that you're associated with, colleagues, etc. And you get access to their account. You put those accounts in the sequencer, in the automation tool like HeyReach or WeConnect or AimFox, those other ones that we already referenced. And you essentially make their profile so they are a member of your firm, and you do a list, you set it up, and then you start running the actual campaign. And that's how you can use LinkedIn to scale horizontally and bring on leads for deal origination. Now, the other tool that has far more volume that you can get going with almost immediately is using email. Email very effectively, but not email in the traditional sense, email in the email marketing sense, where you are leveraging a combination of Microsoft, Google, and SMTP inboxes at scale to send hundreds of thousands or even millions of emails a month. And when you can do this targeted, leveraging AI where you can customize the emails, the effectiveness is absolutely unmatched. It's unparalleled. This is the real secret to my success and to my students' success and other individuals that are associated with me, their success, is leveraging email to its fullest extent. It's how you can pack out your calendar with literally, I'm not joking, 10 to 15 sales calls with issuers, with companies that are looking for help every single day. And I'm not just talking about any random company. I'm talking about targeted companies that would fit your criteria, that would have over $1 million, $5 million in EBITDA, or the exact parameters or the exact characteristics of companies that you would be looking to bring on. This one singular tool, above and beyond anything else that we've discussed here today, is your leverage and your ability to outcompete other boutique firms, but also bulge bracket firms. This is the key differentiating factor, and it's not something that you necessarily tell people that you're doing. It's something that you keep lips sealed on. You don't really tell the outside world that you're doing this, but it's what's behind the curtain and what fuels the entire engine of your firm. Not just for deal origination, but also to find counterparties for your deals above and beyond the capital partner relationships that you've already cultivated. Now, the next way that we would originate deal flow is by going after referral partners. So these are other professionals like accounting firms, law firms, consulting firms, or revenue operators, growth consultants, growth operators, all these sorts of individuals that are working with companies already. They don't have the capabilities to raise money or conduct securities work themselves, but they know their clients do, and these are individuals that can pass off that deal flow to you, and you obviously give them a percentage of whatever the upfront fee is as a referral fee. Now, this is an incredibly effective way to find very, very high quality deal flow. And again, the same way that you would find these referral partners is by leveraging the email system that you create or the LinkedIn system that you create. And by utilizing these pieces in conjunction, you are never going to be in shortage of deal flow. Oftentimes, it's actually a question of you turning the system on, you generating your pipeline, and then you turning it off because there's too much of it. And then when you need more deals, you just turn it back on. All right, so that's an overview of deal origination. You're utilizing modern technology, automation for leverage, and then also finding individuals and firms that are out there in the marketplace that are already working with your potential clients, and they refer them to you for a referral fee. And the goal truly is getting to a point where you don't need to do any of your own internal marketing to originate deals. You already have the gravitas of your firm, you have the credibility, you've already done deals, and there are individuals and firms and companies that are out there that are just referring business to you. That is the dream state. You don't need to do any marketing. The fact that you already have the firm in place and the track record of your firm doing all the marketing for you. The greatest products out there, they don't need any marketing. Like Tesla, for instance, they don't spend any money on advertising. The advertising that they do is in the efficacy, the beauty, and the quality of the product that they create. And that's very much so the case that we're trying to accomplish here. So before we wrap things up, I want to touch on a few key things that you want to keep in mind when you go out and start implementing this for yourself. So the first thing is there's no cap on the amount of advisors that you can bring on. You really only need one to get started, but the more individuals that you have in your network means there are more industries that you can go after, more potential relationships with capital partners that they have, more tombstones that you can bring into the overall ecosystem of your firm, and truly just an overall more capable firm. The second one to keep in mind is the more capital partner relationships that you have, the more deals that you're going to potentially be able to fund. So this truly is the product that you are creating as a firm. It's the Rolodex of capital partners that you have. That is what you are actually selling when you do capital markets advisory. That is the product. It is the relationships that you have, your ability to get them on the phone, your issuer on the phone with other capital partners so they can pitch their deal to them. The third thing to keep in mind is this whole system gets better as time goes on. As your reputation increases in the marketplace, the network effect compounds. The more individuals are going to be speaking about you, the more everything snowballs, and the more weight your firm is going to hold in the marketplace. Now that ties into the next point, which is each transaction that you close makes it easier for you to win future mandates and then actually execute on the transaction consummated, and then get paid your success fee. The next thing is, when you originate deal flow, you want to be focusing on quality companies. The litmus test here is this a deal that I would put my own capital in? If the answer is no, then it's probably not a company that you want to be working with. A lot of times, folks will come into this industry, and because they don't have the marketing capabilities in place, they're just going to be bringing on any old mandate. You know, a company that's raising $3 million, they're pre-revenue, they're a startup, they don't have much track record, and you know, oftentimes there are advisors that are out there in the market that do this kind of work that will bring on companies like that really don't have any chance of raising money, but they do it just so they can collect $10,000 or $15,000 because they need to, you know, pay their mortgage and, you know, feed their family, etc. You don't want to be doing that. If you follow these steps correctly, you're going to be able to go out and win quality mandates. I'm talking about, you know, mandates that the bulge bracket banks are actually fighting over. And because you've set up your team correctly, you're going to be able to win them. Now, the last point, and I made this the last because it's the most important, is one strong mentor equals 20 average advisors. If you can bring on a mentor that has held senior leadership at a bulge bracket bank, has done billions of dollars in transaction history, has run their own fund, has created fantastic DPI or distributions for paid in capital, or anything of this sort, the best track record that you can possibly find out there. If you can bring on an individual like that to mentor you, that relationship is unequivocally invaluable. This is the most important thing that you can do. If you can remember anything from this video, it would be that. It's finding the absolute best mentor that you can find, because having a quality mentor will fast track literally decades of work, of experience. And I mean, I'm living proof of that. My mentor, 40 years experience, billions of dollars in transactions, and I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for this individual. So you going out and finding a mentor and really being selective, like, you know when it's going to be right, when the relationship just clicks. You'll come from similar background. The person's going to take a liking to you. I mean, depending on how young you are and how old they are, they're going to think of you as a son, and you know, you and that individual as a father. Like, that's really what you're going for. Someone who wants to take you under their wing, pass on all of their experience. They don't really care about the money. That's not why they're doing it. They've already made their money, which, by the way, you don't want to have an individual who's poor. You want someone who's rich to be your mentor. They need to have been there, done that, and walk the path that you're about to walk down, so they can show you exactly what not to do. Not just what to do, but what not to do, which is oftentimes more important, because doing the wrong thing will make you take several steps back before you can take steps forward. And if you can avoid those pitfalls, your trajectory will be exponentially increased. All right, so that's a wrap. If you want to learn more about this model, I've created a video that goes into even more detail about the business model. So if you want to watch that video right after this one, then I'm going to leave that linked just above and right below this video in the description. If you like this video, please go down, comment, leave a little bit of insight, go like the video, and then subscribe if you want to see any of the future videos, which we are going to be posting a lot of moving forward. I'm going to see you in the next video.